All right, everybody, we are back. It is Victory Monday. How about those Hoosiers? Let's go. Back with another Fan 5 review video. We're going to have our quiz on Friday. Um, Based off of how my homeroom did this morning, I'm thinking that our numbers are going to be pretty good going into the quiz. Maybe because there's nothing new on here. It's all things we have either already covered in the curriculum or we've covered it in Fan 5. But this is here. It is a resource. Your children know my YouTube page. They are able to click it and go to it at their leisure. You can pull it up for them. But it is our last quiz of the 9 weeks. And as I've always mentioned, those Fan 5 quizzes are so important. Getting an 80 or a 100 on those quizzes is a big deal, and it makes a big impact on your grade. So we will go through these five, maybe not, excuse me, maybe not in as much detail as I do in class, but that's only because there are certain things that I can tell you, or you can go back in prior videos and see certain things, and you'll know what I mean when I get there. But we have a pretty big emphasis on fractions this week. That's because that's what we're going to be starting really for like the next month, and that is the biggest chunk of the EOG. So we finished our multiplication and division unit. We had kids who did really, really well, and then we had some scores that, to be honest, didn't quite meet my expectations. We talked about the standard that we have, and getting a score is one thing, but going and looking at work papers and then seeing, you know, like almost the opposite of what I've been showing in class when it comes to multiplication or when it comes to long division or interpreting remainders. You know, when it comes to fractions, I told them, I was like, some of us got to wake up. Like it is time to roll, especially with the biggest chunk of the EOG being fractions. Like if we're good with this section of the curriculum, we're going to have a good chance to be successful on the EOG. So my expectations or my standards are up here. They're always going to be here. Um, but to be honest, this is normally the time of the year where the wheels start turning. Coming back from Christmas break, this is normally where kids start to pick it up and, um, you know, start really showing what they can do. And I think it's just because, like we see the light at the end of the tunnel, EOG's coming, we'll be ready. All right, so looking at number one, it says, which of these fractions is not equivalent to 1/2? So I asked the kids this morning, I said, hey, how many of you kids took 1/2 and cross multiplied it with all these fractions? Every hand went up. It's like, fantastic. That's awesome. If you ever want to see if a fraction is equal or equivalent, you're going to cross multiply. An example of that would be if I took 3/6, then I put it next to 1/2. We always put our multiplication sign in the middle, and we go denominator to numerator. 6 times 1 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. If you get the same product on both sides, that means they're equivalent. If you don't, that means they're not equivalent. So when I was looking at work papers, I was impressed with how much work they did. They knew the answer was B. I think we only had a couple people who missed that this morning. But we talked about also, if we're ever dealing with 1/2, and we're going to on the quiz on Friday, like this will not matter for the next couple of days. But on the quiz on Friday, if it wants to know which of these is or is not equivalent to 1/2, we said you got to look at the numerator and denominator. If your numerator is half of your denominator, that means that fraction is equivalent to 1/2. Like 3 is half of 6, so I know that's 1/2. 4 is half of 8. I know that's 1/2. 60 is half of 120. I know that's 1/2. And then we started going through the room. I said, give me a fraction that's equal to 1/2. And they were just ringing them off. Grayson Gaines gave me 500 million, 1 billionths. We could have gone all day. So if it does say which is not equivalent to 1/4, that's not going to work. You're going to have to cross multiply. But I'm letting you know now on the quiz, we're going to be comparing it to 1/2. It's just going to be a matter of I'm going to ask if it's equivalent or not equivalent. So you got to read. So cross multiplying will help you this week, but also knowing that tip, numerator, half the denominator, you're good. All right. Looking at number 2. Oh man, I should have done a little research before I started this video. I know we have simplified fractions in Fan 5 this year. I just don't know if I have it on video. I'm going to do it anyways. If you're good, skip it. Wait till we get to number. I guess that's for all of them. If your kid's good on number 2, skip this. It doesn't matter. But when we are simplifying fractions, I think when I introduced it, I said, hey, to make it simple, we want to make it small. We want to shrink that fraction down. So if I have 24/30ths, we got 3 steps. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to list all the factors. Every number that I can multiply to get 24, I'm going to write it down. So this relies on knowing your facts a little bit. I usually start with writing factor pairs out to the side. That way I can put them in order from least to greatest when I'm ready. But this, like, we would just go through. I'd say, hey, give me a factor pair. And we would just start rolling. Once I got all my factor pairs, then I am going to write them in alphabetical order. My Lord. I am going to write them from least to greatest. Good thing only like 5 people watch these. Nobody's going to see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. And then just to save time, I'm going to list out all my factors for 30. I can do 1 times 30. I can do 2 times 15. I can do 3 times 10. I can do 5 times 6. Kind of bunch them in there a little bit. That's step 1. List all your factors. Step number 2 is I've got to find my GCF. That is my greatest common factor, the biggest number that they both have. So when I'm looking at this, I notice that the biggest number they both have, GCF, would be 6. Step 2. Step 3 would be I'm going to take my numerator, I'm going to take my denominator, and I'm going to divide them both by the GCF. If I did that, that would give me 4/5, which is my answer. A lot of kids are going to stop there. I would much rather them say, hey, I'm going to make sure this is right. I'm going to take 4/5 and I'm going to run it through the process again. It won't take as long as this because the numbers are smaller. Like to list my factors for 4, boom, list my factors for 5. The reason I want them to do that is if your GCF is 1, you're done. You know that it is in simplest form if your GCF is 1. What hurt a couple people this morning, let's say you thought the GCF was 3. You would go through, you would divide, that would give you 8/10, which is not an answer choice. If it was, people would pick it and it would be wrong. But then if they would go through and say, all right, let me check and make sure my GCF is 1. When you realize your GCF is 2, you say, hey, I'm not done yet. I missed something. I got to simplify again. So you can get the GCF wrong and still get it right if you check your work. If you don't, then you might not realize that you made that mistake. So you could even leave out factors and still get this question correct. But you got to take it through the 3 steps. And if it were me, I would go through twice. So that is simplifying fractions. Oh man, number 3. I told them this morning if number 3 was a person, I wouldn't like them very much. We struggled with this on our test on Friday. So it bothers me that we didn't struggle today. And this is just my homeroom I'm talking about. They crushed this question today, but on our test on Friday, we had more incorrect answers than we had correct. So we talked about it. I was like, how does that happen? And they were like, oh, maybe we didn't work as hard. Yeah, it's an effort thing. Now, when I looked, it was one of the last questions on the test. So stamina could be an issue there. But man, we got to be able to push through. If we can get it right, we got to get it right. So the one thing I'll go ahead and tell you is this word fewest is really throwing people off. It says there are 47 students going on a field trip. They're traveling in vans that can hold 9 students, equal groups of 9. What is the fewest number of vans needed to get every child on the trip? So we talked about, okay, we got to get every single kid, all 47 kids on this trip. Even the kid that gets on your nerves, even the kid that smells funny, they have to go. So we're going to take our 47. We're going to split them into groups of 9. And just to save time, I've done long division on video. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the quotient, the final answer. We would have had 5 remainder 2. We've spent a lot of time on interpreting remainders. We know 5 remainder 2 is not an answer choice because I can't call Rent-A-Car and say, hey, I need 5 remainder 2 vans. So we're going to interpret what to do with it. And we've talked about giving ourselves 3 answer choices. We can ignore the remainder and say the answer is 5. We can use the remainder and say the answer is 2, or we can push up. We can add 1 to it and say the answer is 6. That right away Gets rid of A. That's not one of my possible answers. Gets rid of D. That's not one of my possible answers. And I don't even need to check 2 because that's not an answer choice. So I know I'm either going to need 5 vans or 6 vans. Fewest, they automatically choose 5. 5 smaller than 6, boom, go. But look, if we took 5 vans with 9 kids in each, that's going to be enough room for 45 students. That means we're leaving 2 kids behind. We wouldn't do that. We would push up. We would get that extra van. Now look, that gives me enough room for 54 people. Do we have 54 people? No, but you would rather have extra room than not enough. So the answer here would have been 6. The reason they use that word fewest is technically 7 vans would get 47 kids there. That would be enough room for 63 people. But you would have a van completely empty, just a waste of money. So, yeah, we could take 7 vans, but logically, why would you get that extra van when you don't need it? So, it would have to be the 54 vans. For those kids who don't like long division, we talked about this morning. You have answer choices. Don't divide. Just say, okay, 4 vans, 9 people in each, 36, not going to work. 5 vans, 9 in each, 45 people, not going to work. 6 vans, 9 in each, 54 people. Hey, that's enough. Gives me a little extra room, but that's enough. And then you would do this one as well and say, hey, that would work. But if I can go with the 6 vans, I'm going to save that money and just get 6. So, yeah, it's a long division. Yeah, it's interpreting remainders. If you have answer choices, you don't have to do that. That's a strategy I'm begging certain people to use. Now, do I expect every single person in here to be able to do long division? Absolutely. We've been doing it for quite some time. So, go back on Facebook. I posted a few links if your child wants some extra practice on long division. Super, super helpful. All right, how much time am I at? Oh, I'm cruising right now. Number 4, this was one of our best, but when the 4th grade teachers were looking at the check-ins, one of the most missed questions was this place value question. It says, which choice below is equal to 9 thousands, 12 hundreds, 6 tens, and 22 ones? I tell them all the time, think about the number 1,000. Think about the number 100. Think about the number 10. Guys, you're multiplying these numbers by whatever it's representing, and you're just adding zeros. So when it says I have 9 thousands, all you got to do is rewrite that number 9 and add 3 zeros. It's the same thing as 9 times 1,000. 12 hundreds. I would write the number 12 and I would add 2 zeros because it's the same thing as 12 times 100. 6 tens. Write down that 6, add 1 0. The number 10 has that 1 0. It's like 6 times 10. 22 ones is just 22. Now, the big thing is you need to make sure your place value is lined up. They don't need to be lined up over here to the left. I need the 1s and the 10s and the 100. Everything's got to be in line. So my 1s place would give me 2. 10s place would give me 8. 100s place would give me 2. 1000s place would give me 10. So my answer would have been 10,282. They're probably sick of seeing these. We've done a lot of these, but I don't think we have had a week where everybody got it right. So that's what we need to be aiming for. The only answer choice that would really drive me nuts is A. Because if you're looking, you can look at the screenshot. You might be able to see a little bit better. They just took all the numbers, smushed them together. I told them 99.9% of the time, that will not be your answer. So we got a little place value here and then ending it back with fractions. I told them on number 5, if you, or not on number 5, any question, if you got a fraction question and they don't give you a picture, draw a picture. Charlie has a pie that is cut into 8 pieces. I immediately would have stopped right there and drawn it. And they keep getting caught up trying to draw a circle because the pie's in a circle, and then they're getting it all jacked up trying to split it. Draw a rectangle. It doesn't have to look like a pie. So there's my pie. I'm going to cut it into 8 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, cool. She ate 2 pieces on Monday. Boom. 1 on Tuesday. Boom. 3 on Wednesday. All right, it says, what fraction of her pie is left? Oh, no, my battery. Hope I'm still good. Still good. So this is left. This is left. For anybody who misses it choosing A, great math. They didn't read. 6/8 represent what she ate. If I want to know what is left, looking at this picture, I know my denominator would be 8. 2 slices left. My numerator would be 2. I think we are past the point of panic. Like, I don't think we look at this anymore and go, oh, I know that's the answer. I don't see. They know, like, if you're confident 2/8 is the answer and it's not up there, you either have to cross multiply or you have to simplify. Cross multiplying is probably faster, but if you took 2/8 and put it next to B, 1/4, 8 times 1 is 8, 4 times 2 is 8. You get the same factors. That means those are equivalent, which is why it would be B. For 5, I think the reason people will miss that one is they might just make a reading mistake. And I'm going to change it. Like today it was what is left, tomorrow might be what did she eat. So heavy on fractions, little place value mixed in there too. Last quiz of the 9 weeks. Man, I really hope that I can get some people to watch this and take some good notes and take advantage of this resource. It is like getting to do Fan 5 twice in a day. So if you are watching, thank you. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Hoosiers, national champions. If they don't win, I'll delete this video. All right, later.